Rick Harrison has been a recognizable face to reality fans. Millions are charmed by television's keen business understanding and extensive expertise of time since the debut of Pawn Stars in 2009. Viewers have become familiar with the Harrison and his family. But behind the prosperity of the renowned gold and Rick silver pawn shop in Las Vegas, a personal story filled with grief, challenges brought on by terrible family losses to obstacles, both personal and professional. His path has not been easy at all. Come along with us as we share the genuine life. Rick Harrison's tale from Pawn Stars. Perhaps Rick is having a wonderful day. However, it wasn't always the case. Life wasn't particularly good when I was born. March 22, 1965, in Lexington, Rick was diagnosed in North Carolina with epilepsy when he was 8 years old. Profoundly affected his early years, impacting his schooling and social life. Seizures frequently produced disturbances, resulting in social exclusion from other kids who were unaware of the condition. His condition's unpredictable nature also caused difficulties for his family. He was frequently bedridden for extended lengths of time, during which caused him to become extremely hungry for reading. This experience fostered his enduring passion for history and education that eventually became a key Pawn Stars theme as he shed amazing tales concerning the objects brought his condition into his shop. Become less severe as he grew older. Even though he continues to consider the profound impact it had in forming his personality, Rick has utilized his narrative in interviews to increase understanding of epilepsy with the goal of dispel misunderstandings and lower. He uses himself as an example of stigma that individuals with epilepsy are capable of prosperous lives with effective management and back up. His public debates have helped raise awareness of the illness, stressing the importance of comprehension and improved resources for individuals impacted. Rick suffered a serious catastrophe at a young age in life. Since his sister's death because of his age, Sherry didn't completely recognize his family's loss. Sherry was born in 1960 and she persevered. Was Richard and Joanne's first child. Harrison was the medical information and tools for treating birth abnormalities of the heart and other health problems linked to Down syndrome. Syndrome was far less developed than her situation was revealed today. Major health issues from birth and her precarious health caused her to be extremely vulnerable to potentially fatal situations. Challenges to deliver optimal health. Richard rejoined the military to take care of her. Navy to obtain health benefits, for it was to make sure she would, Sherry, obtain the greatest care and assistance she needed. Rick, who was born almost 4 years ago in 1963, after Sherry, and by the time he was sufficiently old to create memories of his Sherry's sibling had already died. Tragically passed away in 1967 at the age of 6. Had created a profound hole in the Harrison. Rick hasn't talked much about his family sibling, but the consequences of her passing unquestionably, he never had the opportunity to establish a connection with Sherry, something he had thought about all his life. Despite being too young to recall, Rick experienced the lingering grief. His parents, when he grew older, cannot comprehend the extent to which the loss of Richard, his father, was impacted by Sherry, who had frequently and lovingly spoken of her. The grief over Rick Sherry's passing is something he frequently kept confidential, that the loss of his sister was a tragedy. Something that influenced his family dynamics. It caused a psychological wound that reverberated throughout his childhood. When Rick was in his teens, and his family relocated to San Diego, California, till then, he did not share a strong relationship with his father. Actually, Rick has always been truthful regarding his rigorous upbringing from his dad, who grew up in the Navy veterans' roof. Meant discipline was a major topic in Rick's home. And his dad didn't put up with disregard or disobedience in Rick's adolescent years. Like many others, tested limits with his parents on one specific instance that Rick remembers, using profanity to respond to his father language, and an action that instantly crossed the queue for the elderly man. Harrison is renowned for being stern, Retaliated by striking Rick via the confrontation may appear harsh by Rick has mentioned the ideals of today that it belonged to his father's previous school. Method for raising the elderly man felt that teaching respect and responsibility, even when his tactics were terrible. Rick eventually admitted that although the startling punch was used as a wake-up call and imparted to him an important instruction on respect, especially within early in the 1980s, the family the Harrisons moved to Las Vegas. Rick and Nevada are looking for better chances. His dad was one of the founders of the Gold, and in 1988, Silver PWN opened a store while the Rick's business was small at first. A keen eye for priceless objects and its growth was aided by its affable attitude. Gradually, decades later, the store turned into the main focus of Pawn Stars, forcing Rick and his family to know business is international fame. Rick also doesn't have terrible days. Encountered that in 2012, when he became involved in a court case that brought unfavorable attention to his business, a lawsuit was involved in the occurrence. Daniel Callahan filed a Vietnam veteran who stated he sustained injuries following being taken out of the pawn by force shop. Daniel stated that the altercation started when he tried to sell a firearm. He claimed that at the store, he turned into engaged in a furious dispute with employees and was then put in a chokehold. Held by his father and Rick prior to becoming ejected from the establishment as payback. Daniel said that the Harrisons were responsible for bodily injury and anguish he experienced during. He also asked that the event $20,000, but Corey, Rick's son Harrison, refuted these claims. Corey said in an interview that neither Rick nor his granddad were there. Instead of Corey, throughout the altercation, underlined the necessity for the workers to step in when Daniel lost his temper while brandishing a weapon, forming a potentially hazardous circumstance for Corey. Reported that everyone in the store. Daniel yelled for the proprietor while there were about 4,000 people in the store. Clients to manage the turmoil. Corey supported the staff's choice to eliminate Daniel, implying that it was carried out for everyone's safety. Throughout the lawsuit caused negative publicity for the pawn store. However, it's unclear if the case was finally resolved or fired Rick. He didn't say anything about the event, leaving his son to deal with the assertions made in public. To Rick, Richard were more than merely a parent and business associate. He served as an anchor and mentor in his. Richard's biting wit is strict in life. Discipline and a straightforward approach to business and living played a crucial role in forming Rick's personality and the achievement of the Silver and Gold pawn shop. There the relationship was not only familial but also professional, developed throughout many years of. In 2018, while working together, Rick encountered one of his life's terrible periods when his father died because Parkinson's disease complications. The disease had gradually taken a toll on. Although Richard was healthy, he nonetheless passed away. Felt abrupt and heartbreaking, I believe. People are curious about your father recently passed away. My father was a wonderful man, maybe 20 years old. Years spent in the Navy. I had epilepsy, amazing father. He didn't treat me well as a child. Slightly altered as a result of it when it was 5:30 a.m. and I was 12 years old. Get out of bed on Saturday morning and grab your nail bags because, well, my father wouldn't purchase apartments in the absence of a condemnation stickers on each door. Rick had to deal with not just the sorrow over his father's passing, but also the duty to uphold his legacy. Richard's absence was felt by both personally and professionally. Admirers of Pawn Stars shared Rick's grief, as the dynamic interaction between a father and son had been one of the main reasons the show appeals to. Rick's father's absence meant taking on a more significant role as the head of the household and the business. He frequently imparts the knowledge. Richard shared his desire to uphold his memory while managing the strain of such a significant decrease in a short period of time following his father's passing. Rick discovered himself involved in a torturous judicial battle conflict with Joanne Harrison. His mother Joanne sued Rick for his actions, claiming that he had left her out of numerous family-owned companies and trusts. Includes G&S, The primary pawn shops, Harrison Properties Pawn Shop and Joe. According to Rick had decreased and ultimately stopped the monthly money that she had been getting, which had been $25,000 a month until the beginning of 2020. And subsequently dropped to $20,000 prior to complete cessation in March 2020. Joanne further claimed that Rick had seized the resources, that she was entitled to a safe that contains money and silver, and that he had not succeeded to offer records pertaining to the. Additionally, she asserted that shop's finances. Rick had prevented her from using the trust that the family had built up, silver worth about $500,000. And before her, at least $100,000 in cash. Husband's passing. In reaction to the lawsuit, Rick said he thought his others were manipulating Mother for their own benefit. He rejected the accusations and stated his intention to protect himself from the allegations. That case attracted a lot of public attention because the importance of the family and the grave character of the accusations made. While Rick Harrison might have turned into a celebrity as a result of pawn success, at his core, stars as a businessman who struggles occasionally with the notoriety that he rose to become. An international acknowledgement opened up new possibilities, but also significant difficulties, like overseeing a publicly visible business has made him a subject of examination and dispute. Among the most well-known Rick's problems are connected to criticism to the transactions of the pawn shop. Some former consumers and viewers have asserted that some of the Pawn Stars agreements were unjust, or that goods were cheap, because despite the fact that most accusations are odal, profit, and don't have any solid proof, that accusations help to create a public the war of perception. That Rick has had to manage a business with caution that deals with haggling and negotiating and rare item appraisals, frequently encourages contrasting views on justice, and Rick has admitted the challenge in an effort to please everyone. Rick's political views have also attracted a lot of focus on. His vocal endorsement of conservative issues have caused division among his fan base, but some people commend his outspokenness has drawn criticism from some for combining entertainment and politics. He has not shown regret for his views, but admits that voicing political views can drive some people away. Fans at last. The unwavering character of Rick's life has been affected by fame itself. Continuous use of cameras and the public curiosity in his private affairs has. His privacy was disturbed, so it difficult to manage his professional persona. In January, with his secret self in 2024, Rick experienced an unfathomable catastrophe when his son Adam Harrison passed away. Adam, who was 39 at the time, died on January 19 as a result of a drug overdose. Hazardous mixture of substances in his. The official cause of death was the system. This terrible tragedy occurred during a while Rick was already juggling legal and personal difficulties, but nothing could help him deal with the sorrow of. Rick told his story of losing his kid. Instagram grief with a heartfelt post was resolved to deal with his sorrow. Rick took action and became an outspoken supporter for the prevention and awareness of substances. Through his platform, he has relentlessly to highlight the risks of hazardous substances and the pressing requirement for improved tools to counter these. Considering Rick's support is both a honoring the memories of his son and a mission to stop other families from suffering a comparable heartbreak. Despite his extreme suffering, Rick has found strength, transforming a personal sorrow in this piece into an appeal for social reform. While Rick experienced tremendous success in his love life and career, have been the reality star has been extremely erratic. 3 marriages, but they're all ended similarly to how his first marriage did. Had to do with Kimberly Harrison, whom he had 2 children, Adam and Corey. Wed in the latter part of the 1980s, but following their marriage dissolved after 10 years together in 2011. Divorce was the cause of their split has never been revealed in its entirety. Although similar to many marriages, it's probably the outcome of a confluence of individual, and Rick was under a lot of professional pressure, concentrated on developing his pawn shop company and expanding his visibility in the media. Pawn Stars, but Kimberly might have felt pressured or ignored by his hectic. The couple's divorce schedule was friendly, and Rick persisted on maintaining a connection with his kids following the breakup. Following his initial divorce, Rick continued to be involved in his kids, particularly Corey, who would go continuing to join him on Pawn Stars. Rick married Tracy for the second time. Harrison, his spouse, and their romance appeared to start around 2013. Positively, but it also came to an end in specifics of a divorce after only a few years. About their breakup are mostly discreet, but similar to his first marriage, it seems to have been affected by Rick's rigorous work schedule. Following the Tracy Harrison stayed out of the divorce, the general public, and the details of their separation was never completely revealed to the media. But Rick has frequently regarding how his second divorce hurt enabled him to reconsider his life and relational decisions made through the following his second divorce as well left him feeling emotionally fatigued. Rick was married for the third time to Dean, who married him in 2013. There the partnership appeared to be off to a good start. Indeed, People magazine even released their wedding photos only, but regretfully, it also resulted in divorce. Their separation specifics have not been made as widely known as his previous unions, although reports indicate that their relationship difficulties existed between Rick, and in 2020, Deanna's divorce was finalized. Together, the couple did not have any children. It might have reduced the emotional chaos of their separation in contrast to his prior separations, yet it was still a challenging situation for Rick. A little bit of a task here. I began purchasing and I essentially educated myself by selling things. I have been buying and selling things all my life. My dad owned a little coin store, so I traveled to the city because I wanted a pawn store haul, and they informed me that I couldn't receive a kickoff in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I inquired as to why they had pulled out of the city. Code, they would provide an additional pond permit. His marriages, experiences, and divorces have probably played a part in Rick's personal development in both his private life and public character. Following a string of private and Rick's current professional challenges, decided to prioritize his health and welcome a fresh phase in his life. An icon of Pawn Stars recently posted snippets showing his contentment with his new companion. Angie Pushkin is a Las Vegas-based nurse. A few months ago, Rick and Angie first met, and their relationship has rapidly grown into a romantic partnership. The pair just took a celebratory trip to Europe. Moments from Angie's birthday that were captured. Parisian happiness included enjoying beverages in illumination in front of the Eiffel Tower. Birthday candles combined. The adventures are not just found in Europe. With features like a helicopter as highlights, travel to the Grand Canyon for an London exploration and an Adele concert. Rick has suffered personal losses, but he has demonstrated a wonderful spirit by continuing to the duties involved in managing the gold and silver pawn shop, as well as carrying on with entertain Pawn Stars viewers. Rick continues to be as busy in his career as always in the pawn business. Pawn Stars is about to premiere its 23rd season. This will feature intriguing things like as a Nike Raft limited edition and a Rick's newfound in Brickland SV1. Angie's connection has brought him moments of happiness and lightness during a difficult period. They both shared experiences point to a promising direction going forward as Rick manages his work and obligations with a fresh emphasis on his individual contentment.